the home for intelligent Black people. And today we are having, I think today's Thursday. Yeah, Powernomics Thursday, where Dr. Claude Anderson comes in. And Dr. Claude Anderson is the author of the books Powernomics, Black Labor, White Wealth, the Black History Reader, and Dirty Little Secrets. And as you all come in, please greet Dr. Anderson and tell him hello. And Dr. Anderson, I'd like to ask you, my friend, how are you doing today?
Oh, I think I'm doing reasonably well. I'm improving, but still coming out of this case of weakness I've had now for about the last 4 or 5 years. But I'm growing stronger every day.
Well, you are strong in the eyes of the public, and I know a lot of our folks are always happy to hear from you. I've just sort of just patiently waited for an opportunity for us to talk, because I know that people are looking for you. People are looking for you because they feel that there's a little bit of a gap in leadership. There's sort of a misguided energy right now. And so, I think today one theme is to really talk about leadership and talk about a plan. I'll tell you, so I'll brief you, Dr. Anderson, on some of what's been going on publicly. And a lot of the folks that are in here know about it because we've been talking about it. One of the things that's been happening is a lot of the folks that were getting Black folks to rush out and support the Democrats and everything else, they're starting to have concerns that the Biden administration is ignoring Black people. They were upset. These same people were the ones who were saying, Ice Cube is wrong. He shouldn't be asking for anything for Black folks. He shouldn't be pushing for a Black agenda. We just got to get Trump out of office, which is fine, whether you're Democrat, Republican, that's not the issue. But there were a lot of people who didn't feel that Black folks should negotiate for anything before the election, that once Biden got into office, everything would kind of come together. And from what I understand, a lot of people, the Black Lives Matters now publicly complaining, saying that Biden won't meet with us. He won't talk to us. Who else? There's a lady named Amanda Seales, who is she's a TV star. She's not an important person in that regard. She's a comedian, which makes her a joke. But Amanda Seales was real vocal about really criticizing Black folks that had an agenda. But now even Amanda Seales has actually said, gosh, I'm embarrassed. I can't believe that I supported Kamala Harris and stuff like that. Now, this is not pro-Biden or anti or pro-Trump or anti. It's really about negotiation. Now, I want to ask you about that in terms of, as an expert on power and understanding what it means to negotiate something for your vote. Where did Black people go wrong in this last election, in your view?
They went wrong in depending on so-called Black leaders, which means visible Blacks. They always somehow misunderstand and misperceive people who are visible as being Black leaders. They never followed the definition of a leader. A leader is an individual who has done a very systematic, comprehensive analysis of where Black folk are socially and economically in the society, and then plan and incorporate strategies and techniques, solutions, but taking them to a better place, have a better quality of life. And I don't know any other Blacks that have done that. I can't think of one, not one single Black. I can't think of some of these organizations that front as Black organizations, which is a disservice to Black folk. Urban League and NAACP, they've never represented Black folk. They start off with white folks starting those organizations, and then mixing them and mixing them up so they get confused Black folk, and talk strictly and solely about social issues. And they would focus strictly on conditions of Black folk, on the symptoms of Black folk, and say these are our problems. Our problems is that we need more public housing. Our problem is that we need more jobs. Our problem is that we need more welfare and food stamps. Our problems is we need less imprisonment. Our problems, now those are symptoms of your problems. I said, just name me one who understands the nature of what your problems, and never found one. I have yet to find one throughout the civil rights movement that says, Dr. Anderson, you were right, 60 or 70 years ago. Economics is our problem. That's our basic problem. Economics, speaking with the fact that we own and control practically nothing. What you own and control is what you call wealth. If you own and control it, that's wealth. We own and control less than 1/2 of 1% of anything of value in this society. We've never acquired more than that. And yet you say, well, we're going to go out and vote. Vote for what? Well, on politics. Politics said we should always vote. Voting, have you set up a curriculum? Have you set up a list of demands you're going to make for white folk? Then what are you voting for? It should be based, politics came into existence in the 1500s based on a simple premise of quid pro quo, which means something for something. What are you voting for? Well, we vote for because it's something that makes us feel good. Any stupid explanation. Now, no, you vote based on getting benefits. I've told Black folk that all the days of my life in politics, 60-something years, that you vote to get benefits. And you had these silly people, they'll call on and say, should we be voting? Hell no, unless you got something you're going to demand and something you're going to get in reciprocity for what you're voting for. Because I haven't seen one yet that says, here's why we are voting and here's what we're going to hold you accountable for. And in a Democratic Party, blacks make up typically in the voting pattern about 38% of the vote, and not one. As a matter of fact, Bill Clinton, once I was his deputy political strategist up here in Maryland, and he finally confessed one day, deep in his administration, that he was totally surprised that Black people have never demanded a damn thing from him, except maybe hired one or two people here and there and buying some tickets for the NAACP annual convention or luncheon. They don't demand anything from anybody, never have, and never seem to will have the will to do it. And so what I provided you with recently, I said, I think that the best leader in the country now would probably be Dr. Boyce Watkins. I said, he's the only one who seems to got the sense and the consciousness to want to get quid pro quo for Black folk. So I submitted you and gave you a list of what I call the quid pro plan for Black folk that I was going to provide to the Black community during the last election. But I held off saying, well, for the first time, I'm going to give in and say maybe these Blacks can stumble into the truth, what politics is all about. So I said, I'll stay out of it. But I said, after this, if they don't do it, I'll just give it to Dr. Watkins. I said, in the meantime, at least they should go set up a Black party, a native Black American party. They didn't even do that. So I have no answer for you because right now I'm just totally disappointed in this country for having all these 46 million Black folk and no Black leadership. By Black leadership, I mean somebody who places in priority on doing something specifically and solely for Black folk. Any Black that goes on TV and start talking about these broad, ambiguous terms about what we want something that takes care of everybody, then you're stupid. Because you're competing against, they see that as being not what you think it is. You think you're being friendly towards all these groups. You're being friendly towards showing how compassionate you are towards Asians and Arabs and Hispanics and how much you love them and you want to work collectively. You want to be together. They don't see it like that. Those groups see you focusing on any and everybody as being not friendly, not compassionate, but as being stupid. You're in competition. That's where racism comes from. Racism is a race. You're competing. And I asked Black folk, you know what racism is? Well, doctor, that means that they don't like us because we're Black. You're stupid too. No. So I said at this point in time, I reached an age now where I'm gonna start using the right words myself. Anybody that uses broad, ambiguous words on people who are the descendants of slaves in this country, who I call Native Black American. Use any broad term as a substitute for that, whether you call it minorities, poor folk, people of color, multiculturalism, any of those terms, you're stupid. You're supposed to be putting your own people's interests first and foremost. And that's who you should be competing for, to make sure you come in as a winner. You do not look for equality in a race, not in a horse race, a bicycle race, or a foot race, or a race with human beings trying to survive. We're the only people that keeps trying to be compassionate and supportive of everybody except our own damn people.
Wow. Well, everybody who's watching, I'm speaking with Dr. Claude Anderson. Dr. Anderson is the author of the books Powernomics, Black Labor Wealth, The Black History Reader, and Dirty Little Secrets. I encourage everybody to, if you want to educate your own children, which is what we believe in this platform, go to Dr. Anderson's website. It's powernomics.com. That's powernomics.com. Everybody right now, please do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button. Please hit the thumbs up button, share this video, subscribe to the channel that you're on. We are building Black media. We need your support. Please do that. All right. So Dr. Anderson, let me come in and ask you about this then. And I'm glad you kind of put that straight in terms of letting us know. Like right now, we're at a point where this morning, Dr. Anderson, I told everybody in the chat, I said, I want you to type these words in the chat. I said, I want you to say, I told you so. I told you so, or we told you so, whichever one you want. Because right now, this is a learning opportunity. This is where, because now Black Lives Matter's on their knees. They begging for a meeting with Biden. They ain't got one yet, but they could have arranged for all that before the election. But you ain't gonna get it now. Who was it? That lady Amanda Seals is saying she's regretting because I think Kamala Harris, I think a Republican, Tim Scott, said that America's not a racist country, and the first thing Kamala says is, "I agree." Right. And so she said she agreed. And I think James Clyburn said he agreed. So my point on that was to say, this is really showing you that, these people in the establishment are kind of on the same side. They on that side of maintaining or keep it, or what you might call white supremacy, which to me is keeping power out of the hands of Black people and in the hands of various establishments that are designed to manipulate Black people and control us for bigger means. So can you speak on that? Let's narrow in on the Tim Scott statement that America's not a racist country. So first thing Kamala Harris says is, I agree. And then James Clyburn says, I agree. And I think they threw some extra things in there, but for the most part, a lot of people were taken aback by that. Can you kind of speak to that and just that statement about America being a racist country and what that also means to you?
I don't know what moon they're living on. So, but that's what I call moonology. People sit on the earth and look up at the moon and say, I believe in the moon. There are people up there. We got to be nice to those people. No, they don't even know what racism is. I've told you for years, I used to travel around the world and I would ask people in various countries, do they know what racism is? And and I said, if you know what racism is, tell me what it is. And if you tell me correctly, and I will give you $500 right now cash. So in all those years of traveling and offering rewards for somebody who can define racism. Do you know that I never found not one person who's not one of my students who knew what racism was? They don't even know what racism is. How are you going to define something that you don't? And you don't resolve it, and you don't even know what it is? I said, what is racism? They said, well, racism is like I told you a few minutes ago. That racism means that they don't like me, and I know they like me because I got a white girlfriend, and I got white people coming to my store. I even had this conversation with Ollie North, and he was saying, I'm not a racist, Dr. Anderson, and you said it's a racist. I said, why aren't you a racist? He said, because I hire some Blacks for my businesses, and all my white friends hire some Black folk. I said, so you think racism is anybody who hires a Black person is not a racist? That's right. I said, hell, every damn Black was working in the field picking cotton. And that was 99% of them. Hell, they work for you all. They just didn't get paid. Damn it. Where you come to stuff because you hire some Black folk, but you're not a racist. Racism is a competitive relationship between groups of people who are competing for the ownership and control of resources, wealth, and power. That was the whole point of slavery, Dr. Watkins. Whole point of slavery. I said, do you know what the point of slavery was? Well, it was people, again, they didn't like us. No. What's the point of slavery? What was the purpose of slavery? What did slavery achieve? Slavery was put into effect to systematically maldistribute almost 100% of all this nation's land, wealth, income, power, businesses, and the wealth, privileges, rights, and other opportunities into the hands of the dominant white society. That's what racism was. That was the whole point of slavery. And slavery racism didn't come into a system as a word being exercised or spoken in public discourse until 1859. There was no such thing as racism. Racism was a contest between countries. Started off initially earlier, 200 years earlier, where 9 nations were in a contest, in a race, where they're going to use Black folks' labor to acquire wealth and power and resources. Where it's starting off with the Arabs that these Black folk in America just loves to death. I love me some Arabs. Love Arabs. Arabs were the first one that started enslaving your butts. That's how you got into slavery. Now, how in the hell are you going to go now and start practicing Islam? Those are the ones who put you into slavery. And that was over 1,300 years ago. And in the last 1,300 years, they have systematically enslaved over 13 million Black folk into slavery. And they're still doing it in Sudan and Ethiopia and Mauritania. They still enslaving black folk. These are the Arabs. These are the people that you align yourself with. They were the first. And when they got through with you, then they turned you over to the Portuguese. The Portuguese had you enslaved. And when they got through with you, then they turned you over to the Italians. When Henry the Navigator off the coast of Africa took 16 blacks into Italy and gave them to the Pope. And then the Italians then began to start enslaving black folk. And then when they got through with it, then they turned you over to the French. And then also, then from the French went to the Spaniards, then the Spanish, then the English. Everybody has enslaved black folk on the earth. Everybody. Even the American Indians have enslaved black folk. They were enslaving black folk. Black folks are, well, I got some Indian blood in me. That means you're doubly stupid. That you go out telling people your promulgators that they have also enslaved you, but you still love them. You're bragging about you got some of their blood in you. Indians enslaved black folk in America. They owe black folk. They owe black folk, and yet they're still out there competing against black folk. It is a competitive relationship that lasted until 1859, when all of a sudden they decided, well, 1 year before the Civil War started, that now they had systematically maldistributed all the land and resources in this country into the hands of the dominant white society, the European whites. That's why they were coming to America. They told you that lie about we're coming to America for religious freedom, and that's why we're trying to get to America. I said, hell, you got any sense? You can go off into any hill, any bush, any tree, any closet, any basement, any dark cave and pray all you want. Hell, you don't have to go all around the world to get on a ship to come to America to pray. And that's what the Statue of Liberty said at the bottom. Give me your poor. You were poor. That's why you wanted to get to America. You were coming to America to freeload. Freeload. Black folk don't use that word. They don't even understand what the word means then. Freeload. That's why Europeans was coming here. Boats were loaded down with white Europeans coming to America to freeload, to get free land and free resources. And that's why we had laws saying that any immigrant coming to America was entitled to get land ownership. They can immediately get 160 acres of free land. And starting off with George Washington, who got 100,000 acres of free land. Thomas Jefferson, he said, if you're going to give George Washington 100,000 acres of free land, I want 100,000 acres of free land. Then Patrick Henry said that you're going to give those two guys 100,000 acres of free land, and you got to give me 65,000 acres of free land. So when I say give me liberty, give me a death, I also want you to give me some damn land. And he got land, and every slave owner was entitled to 150 acres of free land for every slave he owned. And pretty soon they had maldistributed, by the end of the Civil War, over 2 billion acres of free land, and all the timber on it, plus the value of the land first. Then it was free. Then all the timber on it was free. Then all the water on it would be free. Then the gold, the silver, the chrome, the bauxite, the magnesia, the silver, and the oil, and all the other mineral rights went into white folks' hands. That's why by the end of the Civil War, white folk owned 99% of everything. And what they said then is that since we've used black folks' labor to become, all of us here have got wealth and resources behind it, where the average white person then had 3,200 times more wealth than the average slave coming out of slavery. That had 32 times what a slave would have. And that's why even today, I can find 2 white men right now that own more wealth and power and resources than all 46 million black folk put together. That 2 white men got more wealth in America than all 46 million black folk. Now, so what happened was that once they decided that they own and control everything and put blacks into slavery, said he was a slave, he's not a human being, he's 3/5 of a human being. He can't own and control anything, he's not a citizen, and he's equal to a field animal. So then they said, let's keep it like that, which means we are mountain, and these black folk coming out of slavery are going to be miniature animals, as close to the ground as possible. It's let's keep it like that. So racism means make sure that nothing happens to transfer all that wealth and power that was given to whites by slavery. None of it goes over to black folk. Maintain the relationship between whites, Europeans, and the slavers and slave-owned people at the end of in 1859. That is racism. So that's for in all future terms. If anybody asks for, let's do something to transfer something into black folks' hands. Let's be for affirmative action. Be against it. Let's talk about 8A set aside. Be against it. Let's talk about economic equality. Be against it. Whites now are against anything that means transferring some of the wealth, resources, power, land, anything to black folk. That is racism. He doesn't have to do anything else. Don't worry about what he says. If he's opposed to or he's not actively out there identifying economic opportunities for black folk to own and control resources, wealth, power, privileges, and everything else, that is racism. And I don't give a damn if black folk are stupid and they don't understand that. But you make sure that you tell all your students, racism is anybody, any white person who opposes moving resources into the hands of black folk. And it's not, that's all it is, as simple as I can tell you. And you got what black folk right now thinking that, well, black folk can be racist. A black person cannot be a racist. He doesn't own and control enough of any damn thing to be a racist. Racism is a power relationship. Who got the power and who has nothing? And so consequently, I don't care who it is, if it's the vice president or the janitor in the system in the White House. If he's opposed to moving something into black folks' hand and he's not black, he is a racist.
All right, everybody. I'm speaking with Dr. Claude Anderson. He's the author of the books Powernomics, Black Labor, White Wealth, The Black History Reader, and Dirty Little Secrets 1 and 2. I encourage you. We must educate our own children. That's very important so that we don't get that slave thinking in their brain. The first books your kids should read, in my view, are on powernomics.com. There's the website right there. And also what that does is it allows you to not just say you support something. I encourage you to talk with your resources. You support Nike by buying their sneakers. You support Popeye's Chicken by buying their food. Well, support Powernomics if that's what you believe in. Don't just say you support it. Actually show that. And also you're going to get something in return for your kids. So go to powernomics.com. Hit the thumbs up button. Please, please, please. Right now, everybody take 1 second. Hit that thumbs up button, hit that share, subscribe button. That's really important to building the channel. We're building Black-owned media. And also, I want to ask Dr. Anderson about something that's on my Instagram. I'm going to pull this up for you to see this, Dr. Anderson. And I want to get your take on some of this. And I think it speaks into exactly what you were talking about. So everybody who wants to see this directly, my Instagram is The Real Boyce Watkins. So please follow me on Instagram because I want to get some smart Black people on my platform. So here's what was released recently by Black Lives Matter. And I did a survey today on my Twitter, and I asked the people on Twitter, I said, how many of you trust the Black Lives Matter organization? So in fact, actually, before I show you what they released, I'm going to show you the results of the survey. And my Twitter is Dr. Boyce Watkins 1. So here it is, everybody. I want you guys to see this. So I asked you all, I said, do you trust Black Lives Matter? So basically, the survey's been up a couple hours. 93.9% of you said no. 93.9% of the Black people on our platform said they do not trust Black Lives Matter. Now, we are a little bit different. We're not necessarily overly liberal, but we're not a bunch of Republicans either. It's sort of a mix. It's a mix of Black people that believe in a Powernomics philosophy, right? So they don't fit really in the Democrat or Republican Party. But that kind of blew me away. I think before the election, that might have been, maybe it would have been 60% or something like that. But 94% of Black people don't even trust Black Lives Matter because they feel like they're doing it wrong. Now, I shared that with you, Dr. Anderson. So the next thing I want to share with you, and then I'd love to get your thoughts on this. Black Lives Matter today put out a list of what they call demands. And I'm going to read through the first sentence of each demand and then kind of get your take on it. They said their 7 demands are: 1, to convict and ban Donald Trump from running for future office; 2, expel Republican members of Congress who attempted to overturn the election and incite a white supremacist attack; 3, launch a full investigation into the ties between white supremacy and the Capitol Police, law enforcement, and the military; 4, permanently ban Donald Trump from all digital media; 5, defund the police; 6, don't let the coup be used as an excuse to crack down on our movement. 7, pass the Breathe Act. And I guess the Breathe Act is a police reform act. In that whole list of demands, Dr. Anson, one thing I'll mention is I saw nothing about reparations. I saw nothing about Black people getting access to control of resources. So it was seen as a joke. A lot of people on the page just said, "This is stupid. What is this?" So I'd be curious to get your take on it in terms of what would make sense for a list of demands, and also what's wrong with that list I just provided to you just now.
Because it's totally off base. That's it. And I know nothing about the Black Lives Matter. I complimented them for having the ability and the sensitivity to organize, but they mixed it up. They confused everything by bringing in all other people that have got their own separate agendas. They got all these newly fabricated groups, and then who are self-perceived as having been discriminated against. They confuse discrimination with racism. And I told them again that there's bias, bigotry, discrimination had nothing in the world to do with racism. I feel like my whole life was a failure, but I've been telling Black folk this ever since the Civil Rights Movement in the 1960s. That is not racism. Black folk think that somehow because somebody doesn't like you. Racism started off as an economic issue in the 15th century. It's still an economic issue. It's still an economic issue. It has nothing to do with whether or not somebody likes you or preference, somebody discriminates against you. Every human being has a right to discriminate. They can't make decisions if they don't have the ability to discriminate. If I was able to take the top of your head off and reach in there and take a screwdriver and cut off anything dealing with discrimination, bias, and bigotry and hatred, then and say that those things are racism, then you will be a very confused man. You couldn't make any decisions. Racism is only a competitive relationship between those who are classified as or those who could pass as whites. It is a black-white issue. That's the only way racism exists. You all can't eradicate it because you don't know what you're looking for. The elephant in the room. You're missing the elephant in the room. The elephant in the room is racism, which is a competitive relationship between blacks and whites and those who can pass for whites. Any group who can pass for whites, they are joining the white folks' side. They were against Black folk by their attitudes and their behavior. And I have not seen that anybody define that yet for Black folk. That's what you should be watching out for. What is racism? And it has nothing to do with discrimination, bigotry, and hatred. And all the things you just read through with the Black Lives Matter, those are personal attitudes that they're trying to correct. Those are personal things with feelings about something. And they have nothing in the world to do with racism. Talking about you want police reform. If Anderson's Powernomics, you don't be talking about no darn police reform. You want to stop police from abusing you, you get economic reform first and give them your own communities and have your economic base and your power behind you so that you can reward and punish anybody that takes advantage of you or kills your people uselessly and irreverently for no reason at all. Don't let you use power and wealth. But if you don't have any wealth power, you out there begging about police power. You want economic reform, not police reform. Instead of social integration, as I told them back in the 1960s, don't be looking for social integration. You look for economic integration. If you had deprived 99% of the Black folk in America out of owning and controlling anything for 365 years, why would you be looking for social integration? Well, we want to be able to socialize with them. So, I mean, even during slavery, they would let us put up a hut or a shack in the back of their mansion, but at least we were social then. No, I don't want no social. I want economics. And that's the problem with everything you read from Black Lives Matter. They're talking about temporary issues that any individual might feel, that they feel discriminated. I'm a female, and I had to work in the white woman's kitchen for all 365 years. That was discrimination against the female gender. That was economic discrimination against because you were Black. That's why you worked in the white woman's kitchen. So now you're going to run out and join her, thinking that you're going to be equal to her. She sat in that same house on the same front porch, drank the same lemonade and iced tea while you were working in the field. She was the one that whipped your butt in the evening when you came in out of the field for not having picked enough cotton. You didn't meet the cotton quota that day. She was the one that slept in the same bed, put her head on the same pillow with the white man who owned and controlled everything. She's the one that inherits everything that he owned. She owned, co-control, co-own, and will inherit 99% of everything the white man has. That's a gender issue. That a gender issue that had nothing the world do. 80% of all slaves being brought to America up until 1808 were black men. They didn't want black women here. They didn't start using black women into slavery until after they had wiped out in the Constitution that you no longer could be importing slaves from Africa into America. And once they got into America, they were no longer African American. They were Native American. They were born in America. Mm. So what I'm saying to you in short, and rather than giving you another lecture, is that all those things that the last lives matter is chasing, they are ghosts. They are whips of smoke, miracles, sounds. They don't steam. There's no substance to them. They should be going after everything economic. Anything on that list should have been economic based. It's not talking about redistributing some wealth and resources into black folks' hand. You're off course. You're off the side of the cliff. You're into the sewage. And you're not dealing with black realities. And so, and I don't care who they are. I don't care what position they hold. You got to remember that in this country, wealth controls everything. If they're in the legislature, then wealth will control them in the legislature. That's what I don't care if you're black or white, it's wealth that controls you. If they're right now, if you're sitting in the White House, it's still wealth. And black folk don't have any wealth, so everybody's going to ignore their butts, period.
You know, that's a good point you made, Dr. Anderson, about wealth, because think about it like this. And I want everybody to hear me. Give me a yes or no if you get what I'm saying here. Think about it. Imagine if you were white. Imagine if you are talking about Joe Biden in the White House. Give me a yes or no. I think it costs about $2 billion to run for president. If Joe Biden did not have access to wealth, do you think Joe Biden could have ever become president of the United States? Give me a yes or no in the chat. Do you think if Joe Biden had no access to wealth, would he be president right now? If Raphael Warnock out of Georgia did not have access to wealth, which was money given to him by corporations mostly run by white people, do you think he could have won the race in the Senate? Yes or no? If Barack Obama had not been able to raise over $1 billion to run for president and not have access to wealth, do you think that he could have been president? If Donald Trump didn't have access to wealth, do you think that Donald Trump ever would have been president if he was a regular guy that, you know, let's say he just had a lot of friends and everybody liked him, but he had no money? Well, the list goes on and on. And so the point that Dr. Anderson's making, and I'm not going to do a lot of the talking. And when the teacher's here, I know how to be quiet. But I want everybody to really understand that the wealth is the one thing that makes the difference. That's the thing where it don't matter if people like you or don't like you. If you got the wealth and the power and the resources in your community, then you can still do what you want to do. And so, Dr. Anderson, I'm gonna pass that ball back to you. And I'd like for everybody, if you could take 1 second, please hit the thumbs up button. Please subscribe to the channel, share these videos, because this is we're trying to find solutions here. We're trying to solve problems. We're not here to complain about what everybody else ain't doing. We'll talk about that for a second, but then we're going to talk about, solutions, and wealth is one of the solutions. And also everybody who's watching later on today, I'm gonna bring in some more solutionaries. Attorney Tanya Nebo is gonna come in. She's very, very good at helping Black people buy franchises. So she's gonna come in today. Later on today, we're also gonna have Farmer Brown, the MC, who is an expert at growing your own food. And I'm sure, Dr. Anderson, I'm sure you got a lot to say about that, about the importance of us controlling our food supply and really just looking into the root of what it really means to have independence and freedom. So I'd like to get your take on that. I've heard you tell stories about, being on farms and chickens and roosters and things that you've seen through the years. So let's turn that corner a little bit and tell us about that. Just that aspect of land ownership, controlling our food supply, or even if it's not even just about the food, just the land, etc. Can you just sort of speak to some of that? Just what comes to mind for you?
Well, yeah, okay, I'll be glad to do that. And I indicated to you earlier that whites picked up over 2 billion acres of free land. And that was the purpose they're coming to America. Everybody comes to America to get wealth and freeload. Everybody came here to freeload. I don't care what group you can be Asian. You came to America to freeload. Whether you're from Chinese, you're freeloading. From Europe, you're freeloading. From Spain, France, you're freeloading. They came here to get immigrants coming from Latin America right now. They're coming here to freeload, to get stuff that they could not get in their own country free. And see, and what does that mean? It puts black folk at a major disadvantage, because you didn't own a damn thing that when you came out of slavery. You have not increased your wealth capacity, not one iota, since what it was in 1859 to where you are now. And this is 2021. What are you talking about in a land where wealth power controls everything? And here you are talking about everything but wealth. Here you got people marching in the streets. And why they join you is because they know you ain't got enough damn sense to focus on what you need to be focusing on. Supposing, excuse me, supposing your Wealth Lives Matter group has said, we're going to march now and demonstrate until white folks give us a major percentage of ownership and wealth in this country. And we're gonna recommend 4 or 5 ways they can do it. Someone you had said that. Would you think those same whites would have joined you? Would you have any Hispanics out there joining you? Would you have any midgets, anybody that's out there joining you? Would you have any gays or transsexuals joining you? No. They're going to join you because they know you're going to deal with the superficial, the ceremonial stuff, something that's intangible, that you can't touch, you can't feel, you can't go to the bank, you cannot build and get empowerment off. Now, the question to your mind is, say, how something is wrong. Why is it nobody ever wants to talk about correcting what slavery did? Why is it nobody has talked about, and since even during the civil rights movement, by correcting if slavery maldistributed everything into the ownership of whites, where you would always be dependent on them for everything, from what you eat, what you breathe, what you drink, why doesn't somebody correct that? It's because half of them are scared, but a third of those don't give a damn, and the rest of them are just out there with their own self-interest. That's why. That you should be, for instance, you should be able to say to yourself, well, why is it that all these immigrants coming to the country are getting all these things, but they're not giving it to black folk? Let's go back a second. This is 2019. Let me give you an instance. Let's go back to let's see. Let's go back to maybe this is May. Let's go back to May. Let me give you a definite date. Let's go back to maybe May 19th, 2019. Let's go back to that, to 2019. Go back to May 19. On May 19, and back in at that time, that this country put out an executive order to economically empower Asian Americans and Pacific Americans. Now think about that. This was an executive order that was put through all the federal governments to go do everything they can to empower Asians and Pacific Americans in this country. Why is it that happened in 2019, but they didn't talk about black folk? Why is it back? Let's go back to 1997, when they were holding major conferences in this country, and they invited special groups of Hispanics, special groups of Arabs, special groups of Asians, special groups of Hispanics to Washington, D.C. for a full week conference on how to set up businesses and get access to governmental resources through the 8A set-aside program, to the affirmative action program. But they didn't invite black folk. Black folk were non-invited. And the whole week conference showing them how to complete the forms. They had lawyers there to help them do the legal work. And at the end of the program, they had a group called the Council of 300 that were here in Washington, D.C., that would guarantee they would give them a contract to start to provide some resources, and supplies to the United States government. So they not only put them in business, we'll give them a contract to start off as they go into business. Why is it when that even my wife called and asked us, why don't you all include black folk? They said, we don't get into that kind of stuff with black people. And I said, what do you want to talk about with them? Well, we're going to talk about some jobs and employment for them. Now, if somebody is stupid or lazy or indifferent, I don't know what it is. Now, I just gave you 2 examples. Now, why? Then you got a major march on Washington by Black Lives Matter. Matter to whom? To whom? Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to those people that aren't doing anything, damn thing to help you. Why do you keep putting people in office without getting commitments from them for what they're going to do economically to empower you? I just gave you some examples, shining examples. Go back with the executive orders that have been passed to take care of poor people. They said, well, we got to take care of poor people in this country. And with Martin Luther King, for instance, we're gonna have a war on poverty. War on poverty, yeah, we're gonna have a war on poverty. Well, who's gonna be there? Well, we're gonna have poor blacks and poor whites. You're gonna have poor whites and poor blacks on a war. Well, that doesn't make any sense to me. Why not, Dr. Anderson? Because in this country, hell, poor whites got 20 times more wealth than a poor black person. Why are you mixing together? Why would you call them poor when the whites got 20? The poor white person got 20 times more wealth than a poor black person. Well, Dr. Anderson, let's switch it off. Let's mix it with another group. Let's mix it with for job employment, for instance. Let's have a job program for immigrants and unemployed people, and you're gonna mix them now with Hispanics under the Barack Obama program. And for 4 years, guess what? 47 to 52% of all the jobs given new hires went to Hispanics. They didn't go to black folk. Here you got that time the black national unemployment rate was 35%. It was 48% in Baltimore, 48% in Detroit, Michigan, 49% in Pittsburgh, 52% to 51% in New York for unemployed youth. And they said, well, we'll start a program for unemployed youth. And then guess what? Then about 87% of the jobs went to whites and to the white suburbs to run the program, so blacks didn't get a damn thing. Something is wrong. And I'm sorry to say in my old age, I am sick and tired of people using broad, ambiguous terms on black folk, and black folk go for it every time. Go for it every time. They talk about getting reparations. How are you going to get reparations when you keep using these broad, ambiguous terms? I said, what is it? What people are you talking about? We're talking about African Americans. No, you ain't talking about no damn African Americans. What in the hell is an African American? Well, we people came from Africa. Every damn body on the earth came out of Africa. What are you talking about? See, I don't have the stomach for it anymore, Dr. Watkins. See, you might be one of the few people got the stomach, you got the strength, you got the subconsciousness, and you know economics better than 98% of the people in the country. Why don't they make you the damn leader for black folk? Why they well, this person got elected in office. He got elected without a brain. So why don't you get Boyce Watkins, let him run the program? And as far as I'm concerned, he doesn't have a list of demands. Well, I'm going to give him a list of demands. So today I gave him a list of demands. And when you read my list of demands out of the Powernomics Corporation, watch the major difference between what was in the Powernomics plan that was put into effect and put on paper way back in the summer. And neither Democrat, not one Democrat has called me in 2 years asking me about the Powernomics plan. But the Republicans call every day. I would get calls from Jared Kushner and people from the White House said, Dr. Anderson, give us your plan. I said, I don't want to get involved in the election. And when blacks started writing in my name saying, well, we can deliver this whole damn election to you, Dr. Anderson, we write you in as a presidential candidate. And we know we can get millions of black voters to vote for you. I said, no, if you did that, it would probably hurt the Biden administration. And I said, I don't want to do that. I want to stay out of this election. But so, as a matter of fact, there were people across the country like yourself that told black folk, don't write me in on a ballot. Am I right?
Yeah, at first I told them to do it, but when you and Mrs. Anderson told me that you didn't want that, we reversed that, and I said, let's take that out. Let's not do that. Okay. But I would have gladly voted for you, but I didn't want to do anything that you and Mrs. Anderson were not comfortable.
Right. No, I didn't want to hurt the campaign, but I said, but you learn to hold the Biden administration accountable. And I recently sent you the Powernomics plan, and you can pick anything on there you want to discuss. But I guarantee you up front, everything on the Powernomics plans deal with economically redistributing resources, power, wealth, and income into the hands of black Americans, not African Americans, people that just came to the country. They're not the descendants of slaves. And there's a difference between the African American coming to than native black Americans. Because you see, native black Americans are people who came in this country, were enslaved for 20 some damn generations, who were stripped of everything, even their humanity, and they had nothing. Those are different from somebody that comes in from Africa last week or 20 years ago. Those are African Americans, and every white person coming to America is an African American, because the first human beings on Earth where humanity started someplace south of Kenya in Africa, and anybody who leaves and leaves Africa, or before they spread all around the world, going across the Bering Straits, coming into America, and become later on they called Native Indians. They ain't no damn Native Indians. How the hell Indians going to come in and get ahead of black folk, and black folk the first human beings on Earth? How did they get to be natives? They weren't natives. They were immigrants that came across the Bering Straits about 5,000 or 6,000 years ago. But the blacks that came across the Bering Straits from Africa, came up from Africa, went through the Middle East, and all the way up through Asia, then came across the Bering Straits into Canada and came down. They ran into the Folsom people. The Folsom people were the first people coming across here. They had already set up and lived in this country down in New Mexico and Arizona. They had Folsom, California, Folsom, Colorado, Folsom, Mexico. Those were Folsom people. The oldest people on Earth are black people. They've been here centuries after centuries after centuries, thousands of years. And they came here for 16,000 years before the Asians did. And these Asians came down and interbred with them, and that's why Indians don't have yellow skin and slant eyes. They interbred with the Folsom people, who got round eyes and dark skin. But yet nobody give credit for that. So call black folk Native American. It's an insult to call them an African American. Anybody that's coming to this country is an African American. And see, if whites started that stuff back about 1840s, let's call these Negroes, let's call them African Americans. Then we're going to ship them out of here, because we're going to bring in about 30 million new Europeans and give them resources. And we don't want black folk be able to lay a claim to anything. So they won't be able to go back and say we enslaved them. And so we'll send them back to Liberia, or we'll send them to some land, set aside a piece of land down maybe around Texas and Arizona and put them down there, or we'll send them back to the Bahamas, because we don't need them anymore. We've taken everything out of them. We've taken their labor. They have enriched us. We don't need them anymore. So we started calling them African Americans. And they said, well, I got blacks calling. I said, Dr. Anderson, you can't call them black, because black is nothing but a color. I said, hell, white is a lack of color. But you don't hear the white folks turning down being called white. Why are you going to turn around and be calling black? Well, that's only color. No. Blackness is the most powerful thing in the universe or on the earth. Blackness is power. It's power, wealth. You can't find anything in the universe that's more powerful than the black. You start talking about in outer space, you want to start talking about the black holes, the darkness out there. The black holes right now are about 200 times more powerful than the damn sun. It'll suck the sun in and destroy it. Anything on this earth and in the atmosphere is power. Blackness is the most powerful thing. In the color spectrum, you can find is blackness. Whiteness cannot reproduce any color. Black people didn't come out of white folks. You can't get any blackness out of white. But see, I can't get black folk to understand this, because they listen to the black leaders who don't know their butts from a hole in the ground. But anyway, you go ahead and let me get off of that subject.
Well, Dr. Anderson, I think that those are great points. And everybody, by the way, I'm talking to Dr. Claude Anderson. He's the author of the books Powernomics, Black Labor, White Wealth, The Black History Reader, and Dirty Little Secrets. I hope you'll go take a look at powernomics.com. That's where his books are. Your kids need to read those books. Those should be the first history and economics books that your children read. We must educate our own children, or they will be miseducated. So give me a yes in the chat if you understand that we must control all of that, starting with what goes into the heads of our kids. Also, please hit the thumbs up button, share, subscribe button. Speaking of controlling ideas, we need to control black media. We need to have authentically owned black media that's coming from black people, not things like BET that are really owned by Viacom, but things that are coming out of the community that reflect your interests. This is a space where I want your voice to be heard. So the more you share, the more you help us distribute these ideas, the stronger we will get. And we are gaining strength. I want you to understand. I want everybody to feel bad, because this is the Black economic revolution. Dr. Claude Anderson is your Marcus Garvey of this generation. You are the soldiers that are a part of this revolution. This revolution is gaining ground every single year. Remember, 5-10 years ago, we were talking about this stuff, wasn't nobody listening. A few years later, more people were listening. Now we got the rappers rapping about it. Ice Cube and celebrities are calling Dr. Anderson. Kanye West called me. First thing he said is, "Can you get me in touch with Dr. Anderson?" Charlamagne the God, same thing. So what's happening now? I want everybody to understand the context here. And I just want to be a vessel. I enjoy just being a part of this because I see what this is becoming. This is becoming something that is going to become powerful. We will accomplish more as a community in one generation than 1,000 government policies will accomplish in 200 years. I want everybody to know that. And you're a part of this. How are you a part of this? You're a part of this because you decide in your household what that culture is going to be. You decide what the priorities are going to be. You decide if your children are going to grow up to become employees or business owners. You get to decide if they're going to become consumers or producers. You decide if they're going to become renters or owners. So by you teaching your children these things, then you are controlling the ideas of the next generation. We can't control all the black folks. Some folks ain't going to listen. That's okay. Because what's going to happen is your children will be their employers. Your children will be the ones who can offer them jobs when white folks are still spitting on them. Right. So I want you to just see the big picture, everybody, so we can make sure we know we are winning. We are winning. It's slow, but we are winning. Last point I want to bring to you, Dr. Anderson, is this. I want to show you a video that that was sent to me today by a young black man that I really think you should know about. His name is King Randall. And King Randall, I might have mentioned, I could have mentioned him to you when you and I were talking, but if I didn't, I'm going to mention to him now. He's a 21-year-old black man who he came to my attention because he ran up against one of the Democratic Party Negro operatives, this guy named Roland Martin, who tried to bash him and beat him up and everything. But King Randall's 21 years old. He built a school called the X School for Boys down in Georgia. He's also raised tens of thousands of dollars, and he just really gets it in terms of when you talk about young people that really are going to lead the future, the ideas that are going to make us great again. He gets it. I'm going to show you a quick little 1-minute video that he sent me today. And I want everybody else to see this because y'all going to be real impressed with this young man. If you haven't seen him or heard of him, then you need to know about him now. So give me 1 second. Let me share this video. Let me see if I can share my audio. Okay. All right. I hope you can hear it. I'm going to play the video. Let me know if y'all can hear it. Okay. Give me a yes in the chat when I start playing it. And Dr. Anderson, let me know if you can't hear it or not. I'm going to play it for you right now.
My granddad always told me growing up, he always said on some dirt. And so I know a lot of people are always asking, how are you 21 years old and you know so much, or what are you able to teach your boys? And I'm just like, well, when you have male figures in your life, they're able to teach you a lot of these things. Growing up, we've always been taught to wallow in our defeat. And, I can't go do anything, because something's going to happen to it, or but that's kind of what history has taught some people. But I'm just like, well, why don't you just watch what they were doing and watch their mistakes and not make those? On 40 acres of land I just purchased for my boys in the program. And I know a lot of us, especially in our community, we always heard about that 40 acres and a mule that we've been asking for. Well, I decided to go take it.
So, Dr. Was everybody able to hear the video? Dr. Anderson, were you able to hear it?
I heard it. Yeah, I did.
What do you think? I'm super proud of him. How did you feel seeing that video?
I'm proud of blacks like that. I need about 46 million blacks with that kind of an attitude and energy to get out there and own controlled land. White folk knew that land is power and wealth, and that's what the American dream is based on. The American dream. See, you go ask some of these black folks sitting in politics right now, holding a position in the House of Representatives or the House of Senate or any place in government. Ask them, so what is the American dream? They don't know what the hell it is. They think, well, it's because we love everybody, we all get along. No, the American dreams mean two things. You come to America and get free land and free black labor to get enriched and you be a freeloader. That's how all these whites got all the wealth and resources. That's why if you go out west, you can see people owning 100,000 acres of free land. Whites all over the South. That those group called the Proud Boys. They came up and hit the Capitol, trying to take it over. They had all got free lands through their ancestors. Black folk were never given 40 acres and a mule, and because they turned it because whites said we give these black folk anything, they can become like us if they own land. That's why every black that gets some land, white folks immediately trying to figure out how to take it away from them. And like that young boy said, get yourself some dirt and own it, control it, and then put it and bring it into production. And right now, one of the things I've asked Black folk to do is asking, I got to find something that I can get them to identify with that would signify Black folks' dedication across this country. And that's why this thing right now with the Finley group down in Alabama, with the high-speed rail system, the X20 rail system, high-speed rail system, that system would give Black folks something they never had. Never in the history of the nation have any Black so-called leader come up with and say, we need one thing economically that can go all across this nation, that Black folk identify and say, this is ours. This is ours. And all that, when the government gave whites, gave 12 white groups of wealthy whites across this country, gave them 24 million acres of free land for railroads development across this country. 24 million acres, and gave them $24 million to bring it into fruition. That meant that when you divide that up with those lines, that means every white who started a railroad line across this country, whether it was Ohio or whichever, Pacific and Oregon railroads, they turned around and gave them 6 acres of land on both sides of the railroad tracks. They had 6 miles of railroad free land on this side, 6 miles on this side, going across this nation up and down, except through the South, through the old black cotton belt. They got nothing. They didn't want to build anything through the cotton belt. And that's why right now the Finley group is pushing, and the Power Numbers is trying to help them to be able to build a new high-speed rail that will run from South Carolina all the way to Texas and can be extended all the way into Los Angeles. That thing would run at 250 miles an hour across this nation, and then get you there about the same time an airplane would take you, with all the stops in 5 states. There'll be stops in Atlanta, Georgia, stops in Birmingham, Alabama, stops in Jackson, Mississippi, stops in Freeport, Louisiana, and stops in Dallas, Texas. And those 5 states, those are Black states, primarily Black states. Those cities got Black mayors, and they got Black city councils, and Black folk can buy into and invest in those areas for the first time in the history of the nation. They got a project they can all identify with. No more marching, jumping, and running. No more saying, I'm gonna get I'm gonna go get me a barbecue restaurant. No, this is something that every Black can buy into. They can go right on those lines and go across this nation in short order to all those Black areas. But guess what? Right now, we're still waiting to hear from the Biden administration. They've been in office now 6 months. They're dealing with everybody about immigrants, about bringing in more immigrants and empowering them. Just like I told you about everybody else. Everybody else gets empowered by our government, but they don't both put them in. Black folk put them in. Now they're working with the Hispanics. Guess what? Half of the Hispanics in this country are Republicans. They voted against Biden. Here's Biden worrying about the damn Hispanics and nothing for Black folk. He's going to be sorry about that. Now, if this railroad system dies and the Biden administration has not supported it and done something, and they were meeting this morning in Congress. This morning, Congress was meeting, trying to figure out how they're going to spend 180-some billions of dollars on the infrastructure. They're talking about going out here dealing with the railroad system over in what's it called? What's on the Atlantic? What is it called? What's that system called now? Runs from Boston all the way down to Orlando, Florida. The old.
I know it's something. I don't know what it's called though.
What now?
I know what you're talking about, but I don't know what it's called.
Yeah, see, and that thing runs at about 70 miles an hour. But that's an old line, a weak power belt that will not work. You're running through those urban cities, it won't work because they got freight on there that carries like highly explosive materials and anything else. And if a train comes by that at 100-some miles an hour, it can shake those things up, and that whole damn railroad would blow up and explode. That's very dangerous. But the best opportunity they got right now is not in California with a high-speed rail system, or down in southern Texas, or up in Boston. It's right down running through the Black Cotton Belt. And right now, the Biden administration has not called, and we've been trying to contact them for the Finley group to get that up. They got a shovel-ready project. All they need is some help, some assistance, some recognition from the support from the Biden administration. Not one has called them yet and done anything about it. But I tell you what, if that system dies, and Biden's going to have a hell of a time trying to get by the next 2 to 4 years in this country, because we got millions of blacks that say we ain't going for it anymore. You should, and they had a big hearing today, and I want to know how many blacks in this Congressional Black Caucus showed up to speak up for the X-20 rail line down running through the black southern states. How many black governors been pressured by black folk in Georgia and Alabama, Louisiana, Mississippi, saying get out there and support that thing for black folks to have jobs. It'll create 100,000 black jobs, maybe about another 50,000 opportunities for black folks to invest, and probably put up about a 2,000 or 3,000 businesses, everything from hotels to restaurants to confession stands and everything else, and taxi cabs and little bus services, take them from the depots down into those cities. This is a major opportunity, and I've been pushing for the Black Friendly Group, and you haven't got one person from the Biden administration respond yet. And got some blacks in the Biden administration talking about, I ain't gonna do nothing to help black folk. I ain't gonna help make no black folk rich, so they can own and control something. All those people gonna have to come out here between now and the next 2 years, and I can guarantee you that I know of all the blacks I know, they're gonna have a hell of a time trying to explain to black folk why the high-speed rail system running through the South died, or why they messed around and right now you had a group called the U.S. high-speed rail system. They don't represent black folk. They represent all the whites that already own rail lines. And that's who's competing to get the money from the Biden administration. You let that go down and the Biden system, they are through in this country. You're not gonna have to be reelected in this country. I can guarantee you that's gonna happen. Because right now, everybody keeps stepping on and urinating on black folk instead of trying to help them. Nobody's empowering black folk, and black folk have no place else to go. The Black Lives Matter are not speaking for black folk economically. Nobody's speaking for black folk economically. NAACP doesn't do it. Urban League doesn't do it, and nobody speaks for them. And they better get somebody speaking for them. Don't worry about Claude Anderson. I'm not here to create a revolution. I tell you what, these black folk now are sick and tired of being poor, overlooked, and voting and getting nothing in return for it. This has been going on for centuries. And the Democratic Party was a party that originally enslaved black folk. The Democrats enslaved black folk for 365 years. It was a Democratic Party. That's who enslaved. And the Republican Party come into existence and after the Civil War, when they came into existence, they had black folks, they tried to help black folk for 10 years, called Reconstruction. Reconstruct. And that's what they came into existence for. Reconstruct, which means you've been doing everything wrong as a Democrats and screwing over black folk. Do something to help them now. Empower them. Shift some wealth and resources. No more this turkey stuff about we're gonna do something to make y'all feel good. We're gonna do something to give y'all some jobs. Black folk don't need jobs, they need damn businesses. They need businesses that can produce jobs. Tell the Urban League and then the WCPs, quit looking for jobs for black folk and started looking for business opportunities and putting black folk into business so they can hire their own damn people and produce their own products and all that. We got 4 million acres of land in the South in that cotton belt I'm talking to you about that the rail system is going through. We got over 4 million acres of black owned land. They can't develop it because they don't have any ways to be able to ship it out, raise products, and be united. And tell those black colleges and the United Negro College Funds and to be able to start raising products and services and goods for black folk and shipping into these urban areas where they can set up farmer markets. So every damn weekend, black folk go to their own farmer markets and get fresh produce, food, and everything else, and be able to have jobs and run their own businesses and grocery stores and shopping malls and not shopping malls, but grocery shopping stores where they can buy fresh produce and goods. You got water shortages coming. You got food shortages coming. It's coming up now, starting pretty soon. And at that point in time, you better have these colleges, these agricultural colleges producing food for black folk and unite themselves and produce these goods and ship them into these urban areas. All while these blacks are going to starve. That's what's going to happen to them. Because right now, 70% of all the black folk in America live in and around about 10 large urban areas. And they have no way of getting food. They have no way of getting fresh water. They don't own a damn thing. They're dependent on somebody else to provide it. Who they're dependent on? They're dependent on these immigrants that are coming in here and getting empowered with resources and money and wealth. Nobody's empowered black folk in 500 years. And this is the time to do it. If they don't do it, Biden won't be in power very long, neither will Ms. Harris with it. Let them keep playing around trying to take care of everybody but black folk and trying to give the appearance that somehow that black folk are the most friendly, compassionate people on earth. They're always willing to help everybody and save everybody from the gays on up. No, they better start helping these damn black folk in the country by providing some resources and money to let them build businesses and own property and rebuild these black communities in the name of black folk, and then practice group economics and group power. That's what they better do. And I'll tell you, I'm gonna close right now, but that's my feeling about all of this. And you would be the ideal person for them to make into a black leader in this country. Make Dr. Watkins the new black leader in the country, and ignore anybody that's right now in a major organization or sitting in a public office that has no sense of commitment and consciousness about their own people's survival.
Well, I want everybody to know I did not know Dr. Anderson was going to say that, and at the very least, I don't mind being an advisor to you. I believe we can all lead together, and I'm honored. I'm always honored and flattered by the kind words you share. And I would say at the end of the day, I think I see all of us as a collective. Everybody in here in this room right now, we are the leadership, as a group. So if I would humbly accept, the honor of leading, but I want to lead by committee because, in this group, there are so many black people that have so many great ideas that are so skilled. And what I really want to do is help support all of you in connecting with each other and to realizing how great you can be. And so I want to say, I hope everybody will join me right now in saying thank you to Dr. Anderson. Please, please, please give him a digital thank you. He just came in here and gave us over an hour of some of the most powerful words that many of us have gotten our whole entire lives. You don't get this in college. You're not going to get this at an HBCU. A lot of black folks ain't ready for this. He's ahead of his time, and this is the future for our community. So please thank him. Also, his website is powernomics.com. That's where his book is. Now, a couple things I want to also mention to you guys before we go. One, some of you are here because you got a text message from us. We'll text you from time to time. If you want to get a text, just text the word Boyce to 31996. Text Boyce to 31996. Secondly, Vicki Dillard, you all know Vicki Dillard. She's doing a mastermind this weekend, and it's mostly for women, but men are welcome as well. And if you want to go take a look at what she's got going on this weekend, you can go to flynubianmastermind.com. It's going to be this weekend, and a lot of y'all love Vicki Dillard. And the last piece is Farmer Brown, the MC, who's an expert on growing your own food. We were talking about growing your own food today. Well, if you want to learn how to set up your garden, set up your urban garden, things like that, he's been doing this for years. And he's partnered with the Black Business School to literally teach you a program on how to grow your own food. So if you want to just take a look at what he's got going on, you can go to healthyblackfood.com. The URL's on the screen. He's going to be here tonight, and you're going to get a chance to hear from him directly as well on Dr. Boyce TV. So make sure you subscribe, hit the thumbs up button so you'll be notified when we do this. So I want to say thank you very much, Dr. Anderson, for your time. I really appreciate it.
Well, one last thing, and I would encourage them, and you're right on target. I encourage them to try to get to that powernomics.com and get that power pack, the library pack, where they get all 5 of those books. Those books are taken from the beginning to the end, what they need to be thinking about, working on, and championing in this country. And they'll give you the kind of information that the Black Lives Matter group can't give you. There are no books in this history of this nation ever been written like those 5 books. You get all 5 of those books for $100 or $90, whatever it is, and get all 5 of them and start reading them, because so you understand these issues. That is black labor, white wealth. That tells you the nature of the problem. Even the cover tells you the nature of the problem. Black labor, white wealth. So you got timelines in there that show you how whites picked up the money and wealth, how they got it. And Dr. Watkins can show you also in tracking it. He'll show you how throughout history, where they were getting the wealth from, how they were getting it through every group that was getting the wealth, and gives you timelines. That's the first thing. The second thing would be the Dirty Little Secrets books. So you understand again that over 1,000 factoids in there, stories, short stories telling you things that unknown about what black folk have done in terms of achievement. But when white folks start saying you black folk never done anything, no, it's that you white folks are ignorant of all the things that black folk have done and never gave them credit for, nor appreciation for, nor reparations for the things they've done. You got 2 Dirty Little Secrets book in there. You start talking about the Black History Reader and Powernomics. Those two books got 101 questions down there that explain and analyze everything you want to know about those questions, about what should be done. And the last thing is to get those books and start reading them immediately. That is extremely important. Summer's coming up. Make sure those books are in your house, in your library, and in your children's hands, because right now everything is online. Get those 5 books called a library pack, and they get also a free DVD in there on issues about Black folk. And that is now by going to powernomics.com and ordering that power pack. And I know one thing is that if Dr. Watkins tell you to go do it, I know you all respect that man. So you'll be going out there buying those books and trying to read them. And if you have difficulty reading them, he will help you read through them. And I'll come back on at any time. And I'm going to be coming on, I guess, most of the summer with Dr. Watkins to try to make sure that I take up a little of his time, because I don't want to overwork him. So I'll be there with him to give a lot of noise and verbalize my concerns for you. So go get that power, the library pack with those 5 Black books for $100 and get the free DVD. And I love you all. And that is I look forward to coming and support. Call every politician you know and says, are you supporting that high-speed rail system through the Black Cotton Belt in the South? And don't be putting all your money into things running up down the East Coast talking about, I can't think of that name of that rail out there. It's called the...
You mean
huh?
Amtrak?
Amtrak, that's it. They said that putting all your money into Amtrak. That line in bed is so old and wobbly, it just wobbles. And you should be saying, we need to have, and they're intentionally avoiding talking about what Europe has. See, Europe has a high-speed rail system. China has a high-speed rail system. All our foreign countries have a high-speed rail system. The United States is the only one, and they're doing that intentionally because they don't want to support the one in the South or the Blacks, the one from. But it'll be mixed on it because whites can also buy some ownership in it. But it'll be majority owned by Blacks, and that'll be running across the South. You hear that Black folks bad mouthing it, run them out of public office, take them out tomorrow. Say, no, you gotta get your ass out of politics and go start selling peanuts on the corner or something.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Dr. Anderson. This is always a pleasure. And everybody, thank you all for hanging out with us today. We'll be back a little bit later. We got some more people coming on today. Attorney Tanya Nebo will talk about franchise ownership as a pathway to building wealth. Then we're also going to have Farmer Brown, the MC, later on to talk about growing your own food. He's an expert on agriculture from Kentucky State University. And so we're going to just do what we can to support you. So thank you, everybody. Please have a wonderful day. And we will see you all soon. Hit the thumbs up button on your way out.